the narcissist has not forgotten you. Is this really the case? It's actually not a simple yes or no. The narcissist actually does forget about you. However, owing to the narcissistic perspective, the narcissist retains ownership of you. As you know, we regard you as objects, appliances. You're like toasters, washing machines, refrigerators. And when you first interact with us, from the first time that you meet us, or exchange words with us in some forum, or a glance across the bar, sit next to us at a seminar, respond to our email, like one of our posts, you've entered our fuel matrix, and you now belong to us. The extent of the involvement between us will vary, but from the moment that you first came on our radar, you now, in our world, belong to us. And that sense of ownership of you as an appliance continues until either you die or we die. That is what is behind the narcissistic perspective. Greater narcissists and the ultra know that to be the case. Lesser and mid-rangers don't, but nevertheless, that is what is running through their actions and behaviours. When the narcissist isn't interacting with you, you don't exist. It's as if you have never existed. You have vanished into the void. We forget you. Contrary to popular belief, the narcissist is not repeatedly obsessing over you. Oh, of course, the narcissist will give the impression of that being the case. I can't stop thinking about you. I was thinking about you all night. Poppycock. Wasn't the case. The narcissist was scurrying around dealing with other appliances, not you. But of course, the narcissism determines that as part of the flattery, the most appropriate thing is to say to you, oh yes, I was thinking about you all night, because that allows us to assert control over you, draw fuel from you, cause you to be bound tighter to us. You're flattered, you feel special. And of course, you as an empathic victim suffering from emotional thinking don't realise that you're being conned. You don't question, was he really thinking about me all last night? He's only just met me. No, instead, you're bowled over by this flattery. The narcissist doesn't either sit there in the hollowed-out volcano going, "Bwah ha 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 ha," plotting your demise. Yes, a greater and ultra will think about calculated manipulations against their victims, but we are very rare amongst narcissists, and the vast majority, being lesser and mid-range, don't sit there preoccupied and obsessing. It's a waste of time. The narcissism must cause them to do. So if you come up on the radar, the narcissism determines, is this person under control? If you are, do we need to get anything else from them? If the answer is no, you don't hear from the narcissist, and the narcissist moves on to the next thing. They don't sit there going, I wonder what they're up to. I wonder what they're doing today. I wonder if they've had their hair done. Not at all. If, when you come up on the radar, the narcissism recognises that you're not under control, control must be obtained. And you'll either get hoovered, or control will be asserted by smearing or triangulation, which you may not even hear about, or we'll stay in a position of withdrawal. And again, you don't hear from the narcissist, but the narcissist, through the creation of his alternative world, enables him to assert control. Too many people who don't understand narcissism think that the narcissist has got time to sit around, basically grinding his teeth, gnashing and wailing, plotting, banging on about you. There are other things to do. There's fuel to be gathered, other appliances to control, replacements to be found. Hurry, hurry, scurrying around. Yes, the narcissist might be talking about you with somebody else. That's part of smearing you to assert control over you indirectly. But then after that, they move on. The narcissist, if they think about you in that moment, is driven by the narcissism to take action to assert control in some way. And then it's achieved. And it's on to the next thing. And if you come up on the radar again in the next moment, the question is asked again. Are you under control? If you are, move on. If you're not, action must be taken. And therefore, there are these differences with regard to the response. You, of course, can keep coming back on the radar. That's because you're causing Hoover triggers. You text us. You're on the radar. You're in our thoughts. You call round to see us. You're in our thoughts. Somebody else talks about you. You've come on the radar. We see a car that looks like yours and it reminds us of you. You're on the radar. Or we just have a random thought about you. So you can keep coming on the radar. And once you do, our narcissism dictates that we must get you under control, or if you've signalled that you are under control, determine do we need anything else from you, such as fuel, character traits and residual benefits. And thereafter, that determines how much we continue to interact with you. Therefore, if you're under control and we don't need anything more from you, that's it. We won't interact further. If we do need to assert control over you, then it's through one of the 3 assertions of control. If you are under control but we need something else from you, then we'll interact with you to get that fuel, to get that character trait, to get that residual benefit. But essentially, what happens is, when we're not interacting with you, you don't exist. You're on the shelf, you don't exist. Former intimate partner, primary source, we're not interacting with you, you don't exist. The narcissist doesn't sit there thinking, my fucking ex-wife, grrr. He's too busy dealing with what's in front of him. The other people that have come on the radar. Because we compartmentalise, that door is slammed shut until such time as it needs to be opened again. And therefore, we do forget about you. And it's as if you never existed. But then, all of a sudden, you're resurrected. You come back on the radar, you're back in play, steps need to be taken. And then you're off the radar, and you don't exist. And that could go on for days, it could go on for weeks, it could go on for months. There are occasions where you'll come back on the radar and you don't realise it's happened, because we don't do anything towards you as part of asserting control. The lesser and mid-range narcissist, they press the reset button. So in instances where you've gone off the radar and you've stayed away from the narcissist, and the narcissist has been busy elsewhere, when the narcissist reappears and you come back on the radar, it's invariably, dependent on how you came back on the radar, that you're painted white. So let's say, for example, you challenge the narcissist's control, you're an intimate partner secondary source, you're on the shelf. The narcissist gives you a silent treatment, which is a malign assertion of control, third assertion of control, and you're popped back on the shelf, painted black. Shortly thereafter, that silent treatment has ended. The narcissist isn't continuing it because he's focused on somebody else and you're just on the shelf. And assuming you don't contact the narcissist, and let's say the narcissist just happens to think about you a week later, you've now faded back to white. And the narcissist sends you a text, hey, how are you? The incident that led to you being given a silent treatment and put on the shelf is forgotten about. It's in the past. The compartmentalization has occurred. The reset button happens. The narcissist could do that, having a blazing row with you, walks out, third assertion of control, comes back half an hour, acts like nothing has happened. Because control was asserted, that's in the past. You were forgotten about in that half hour. He didn't walk away, continually muttering under his breath. He'd asserted control by removing himself from you. You, of course, remember events for far longer. They become entrenched in your mind. You muse on them, mull over them. The narcissist might give you the impression of doing that. That's part of the manipulation, to perhaps make you think that you're dealing with a deep thinker, or still water's running deep, or that it's really chewing the narcissist up and they're anxious and anguished about it. But what you're being told is contrary to what is actually occurring. And the narcissist deals with what's in front of him, always moving forward, not looking over his shoulder. Yes, the past will be brought up where necessary to control you in the now, but what's done is done, and the narcissist moves forward. That's why you are affected far worse by the demise of the relationship than the narcissist. Notwithstanding, of course, that we don't form an attachment to you in the way that you do to us, and there is the absence of issues such as guilt and remorse and emotional empathy for you, But the simple fact is, you're prone to reminiscing, mulling things over, trying to make sense of it. Your truth seeker trait, having its belly tickled so that you need to figure things out. We don't. Jettison, move on. Disconnect, move on. Get rid, move on. And therefore, we are able to forget you until such time as you come back on the radar, and then we'll deal with you, and then we'll forget you. The greater and the ultra will similarly forget about you. That's a combination of the compartmentalization, but also, because greater and ultras lead such busy lives, there's always something else that will be going on that means that they're preoccupied by that, so that you will be forgotten about. However, although it's a short-term forget you, the greater and the ultra is more likely to come back to exact a punishment against you, having logged it and remembered it, because of the superior cognitive function the greater and ultra has to be able to do that, and the differing style of narcissism. So, you might have transgressed towards a greater narcissist, and they asserted control in the moment by being charming, because they needed to preserve the facade, but a mental note is made of your treachery for you to be got at a later juncture. It might be days later, weeks later, months later, when it happens. And in the meantime, you have been short-term forgotten about by that narcissist as he deals with other matters, but your transgression has not. And he may well then be actively planning something to implement against you in the future. But that's applicable to the greater and the ultra. Where it comes to the lesser and mid-range narcissist, they are very much, they eat what they kill. What's in front of them is dealt with, and then it's on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. They can't look backwards. That doesn't serve any purpose, save where digging up the past is used to control the now. Reminiscing is only done where it serves a purpose in the now. You won't find a narcissist sat around at home on his own, reflecting on, the good old days. Pointless, serves no purpose. But if he's chatting away to his mum, they might reminisce about his childhood for the purposes of drawing fuel from her in the now and asserting control. But lamentation, nostalgia, reminiscing, reflecting, not going to happen when the narcissist is on his own. It's the past. It's gone. It's done. It serves no purpose. Accordingly, it's not the case that you're always on the mind of the narcissist, but rather there's a permanent state of ownership in the unconscious, but when we are not dealing with you, you will be forgotten about until such point you come back onto the radar. This has been a Tudor treatment. Thank you for listening.